whole lot of friends. Just like you make them, you're gonna break them in the end. Somebody's gotta suffer, somebody's gotta feel some pain. If it's gonna rain down misery, why it's all gotta fall on me. Pay an awful price. I tried to gamble with you, but you were using crooked dice. Somebody's gotta suffer, somebody's gotta feel some pain. If it's gonna rain down misery, why it's all gotta fall on me. If it's gonna rain down misery, why it's all gotta fall on me.
Good. How beautiful. I believe that was really fantastic. Now we have the electric strings laid on for you, and Phil Spalding on the bass.
Yes.
And I think with the stars line up, all I can say is, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Marianne Faithfull again.
Stars line up, the stars line up for me tonight. The stars line up, the stars line up tonight to see who we are, baby, and write our names high up inside the sky. The stars line up, the stars line up for me tonight. The stars line up, the stars line up tonight to see what we know, baby, and write our names high up inside the sky. What else is there to do? The stars line up, The stars line up for us tonight. The stars line up. The stars line up tonight to see who we are, baby. Let's write our names high up inside the sky. I hope you know the way I feel. I want you so. I hope you know the way I feel about you, baby. Let's write our names high up inside the sky.
Fantastic, Marianne Faithfull.
They say we're young and we don't know, and we won't find out until we go.
I don't know if all that's true, but you've got me, and baby, I've got you.
Baby, I've got you, baby. I've got you, baby. They say our love won't pay the rent before it turns our money's always spent.
I guess that's so we don't have a lot, but at least I'm sure of all the things we've got.
Babe, I've got you, babe. I've got you, babe. I've got flowers in the spring. I've got you
The next number, ladies and gentlemen, will be introduced by a great Coward actress. She's recently been in productions of Hay Fever and Easy Virtue, Jane Howe, and Martin Jarvis, who's been in more Coward productions than he's had hot dinners, and is most recently in the film Titanic. Would you welcome Jane Howe and Martin Jarvis?
I'm no good at love. My heart should be wise and free. I kill the unfortunate golden goose, whoever it may be, with over-articulate tenderness and too much intensity. I'm no good at love. I batter it out of shape. Suspicion tears at my sleepless mind, and gibbering like an ape, I lie alone in the endless dark, knowing there's no escape. I am no good at love. I betray it with little sins, for I feel the misery of the end in the moment that it begins, and the bitterness of the last goodbye is the bitterness that wins.
Though his romantic life was strewn with traumas, Coward was always able to maintain his characteristic wit when dealing with platonic love. Take this telegram to Gertrude Lawrence on the occasion of her marriage to Richard Aldridge.
Dear Mrs. A, hooray, hooray, at last you are deflowered. On this, as every other day, I love you, Noel Coward. One song of delightful sexual ambivalence is Mad About the Boy, apparently written about James Cagney. Another rumour said that Coward wrote it for Douglas Fairbanks Jr., who's mentioned in it. The song could also be a comment on matinee idols who traded on bogus heterosexuality, such as Ivan Novello, Valentino, Fred Astaire, Robert Taylor, and Cary Grant. Ladies and gentlemen, Marianne Faithfull.
I met him at a party just a couple of years ago. He was rather over-hearty and ridiculous, but since I'd seen him on the screen, he cast a certain spell. I basked in his attraction for a couple of hours or so. His manners were a fraction too meticulous. If he was real or not, I couldn't tell. But like a silly fool, I fell mad about the boy. I know it's stupid, but I'm mad about the boy. Although I'm quite aware that here and there are traces of the cat about the boy. Will it ever close this odd diversity of misery and joy? I'm feeling quite insane and young again, and all because I'm mad about the boy. It seems a little silly for a girl of my age and weight to walk down Piccadilly in a haze of love. It ought to take a good deal more to get a bad girl down. I should have been exempt, as my particular kind of fate has taught me such contempt for every phase of love. And now I've been and spent my last half-crown to weep about a painted clown. Mad about the boy. I know it's funny, but I'm mad about the boy. He has a gay appeal that makes me feel there's maybe something sad about the boy. Walking down the street, his eyes look out at me from people that I meet. I can't believe it's true, but when I'm blue in some strange way, I'm glad about the boy. I'm hardly sentimental. Love isn't so sublime. I have to pay my rental, and I can't afford to waste much time. If I could implore a little magic that would finally destroy this dream that chains me and enchains me, but I can't because I'm mad about the boy.
Well,
as part of the rock and roll royalty in the 1960s, Marianne Faithfull had a front row seat to some of the most tumultuous decades and times of our generation. She joins us tonight for a look back. Thanks for coming on. I've loved reading about you and this mini tour that you're on, and I welcome you to our little show here at CBS.
Thank you, Tom.
You know, going home last night, I heard on the radio that Cheyenne Brando had taken her own life.
I just heard, yeah.
Very, very sad. And you wonder how somebody who has so much in life to live for, she had a baby, she's the member of a famous family of theater and motion pictures, Marlon Brando. And you wonder how you get to a point in your life where there is such desperation and desolation, and you know where I'm going with this.
Yes.
How do you get there? Because you've been there too. You were at the brink of the abyss at one time in your life.
Yes.
And
Twice,
you had a lot.
actually.
And you had a lot going for you. How
Yes,
can you
I
have
did,
so
I
much
did.
going for you and get so depressed about life?
Well, I don't know about Cheyenne Brando, but I know I can speak for myself. What I think happened, what I remember, is that I got completely only focused on myself. And I didn't think at all, really, at all, about my mother, my son, my friends, my lover. I didn't think about them. To me, it seemed like a tragedy that I was the protagonist in this, and I couldn't handle it. And the only way out I could see was to kill myself. It's a particularly mean thing, I think. I see it as a very mean-spirited thing that I was trying to do. It's my way of punishing people. I don't do it anymore. But if I can't do anything else, I will take myself out of the situation. And to try and kill yourself is to take yourself as far out as you possibly can.
Exactly right. In fact, you carry it to the ultimate state of removal, and you also make a great statement of irreverence for life.
That's, yeah. I can only feel that she must have been in so much pain. I think sometimes, see, what was so naughty about my trying to commit suicide was that I don't think I was in that much pain. I really hadn't got, I cannot defend it and say I had the right to do that. But sometimes people are in tremendous pain, and I do reserve their right to kill themselves. I think it's unacceptable for me. But I felt like that about Kurt Cobain. I could sense that he was in tremendous pain. You can't say it's a crime. I think it's a crime for me, but I don't know what was going on with Cheyenne Brando.
No, but then looking back on your own moments of quiet desperation, it was really not so much that you were in a tremendous amount of pain, but rather it was a desire to remove yourself from a reality or an imagined reality that you no longer wish to be a part of.
Yes, and I couldn't think of any other way to do it. And it's a very weird form of control. You know, like, I cannot stand this, I will, and I think, in my situation. It was a form of revenge. Very, very weird.
When we look back, you know,
Hate
in the
thinking about it.
in the introduction, I mentioned that you had a front row seat during tumultuous times in America. What was so great about the '60s? Now, when we think about the '60s, it was the assassination of John F. Kennedy. It was the war in Vietnam. It was the killing of Bobby Kennedy and Martin Luther King. I mean, this was a terrible time in America. The Chicago Conventions in 1968. These were terrible moments,
Yes.
Kent State in American history. What was the greatness of that time?
I think that it was a time of incredible social change. And it was the beginning of great changes, and they're not worked out yet. And a lot of the terrible things you're talking about, the death of President Kennedy, the killing of these great men, Martin Luther King, they were forward-looking men. And when a great change happens, sort of demons come out of the woodwork and stamp on these people. And that's what happened.
And
I'm
we've
not
read,
putting it very well.
No, you're putting it very, very well. But you were discovered, found at the age of 17 by a man who was the manager for the Rolling Stones.
Andrew Lou Goldman.
Andrew Lou Goldman.
At
And
a party.
Before this man came into your life, who was Marianne Faithfull? Were you just a schoolgirl? Or?
I was a very, very, very pretty, very, very bright, very talented, charming little girl.
If you don't mind saying so yourself.
Yes.
Good for you.
I will say that.
Very good.
I was taking singing lessons. My mother was teaching me dancing. I was very good at English. I played the piano. I had a lot of friends. I was a happy little girl.
And all of a sudden you're at a party and this man comes up to you.
Changed my life.
What did he say to you?
He didn't speak to me. He spoke to, I was with my first boyfriend, who I later married, and who is the father of my son, Nicholas, John. And he didn't even speak to me. He just said to John, "What's her name? Can she sing?" And John said, "Her name's Marianne Faithfull." And then Andrew was still looking at him, and he turned to me. Then John did turn to me and said, "You can sing, can't you, Marianne?" Of course, I could sing. I had a beautiful soprano voice. But that wasn't the manifestation Andrew wanted. He wanted it always infuriated my mother and my father, my first record, because they knew I had this beautiful voice. And of course, Andrew didn't use it at all. He sort of made me sing with half breath and half all that stuff. But it was a hit. And
Big hit.
Big hit. People remember it to this day.
Tears.
Yes, as tears go by. And I don't know. I'm glad I'm in the business I'm in. It's got its downside, but for me, it's the right one. I love it. I like showing off. I like generally prancing about. I love making records. I like the whole thing, you know. There is a very dark side to it, and sometimes it gets me down.
So how long after being discovered or found at this party and making this record as tears go by were you on the fast lane? How long did it take?
I didn't go straight onto the fast lane. Or maybe I did. I mean, when I say that, I'm thinking I certainly didn't use drugs till much later. I started much later. I started using drugs at 19. So I went for a few years without that. But what really frightened me was I went on tour with all these boys on these buses. And of course I got into sort of all sorts of little tour romances and stuff like that.
Good for you.
Well, I had been brought up at a convent and I had been taught another thing. And I actually felt rather bad, wicked and naughty. And at the time I couldn't handle it, so I didn't know what to do. So I thought the classic standby of all naughty little girls is, I'm very frightened, I will now get married. So I did that, which was very, very sort of thoughtless of me, because I didn't really mean it.
But you know, when you talk about the one night, when you talk about the romances on the tour.
The tour romance.
The tour romance.
No, there really is nothing wrong with the tour romance.
No,
it's
there's
an
not.
honorable tradition.
And by the way, you know,
I know that now.
You convent raised, I raised by the Franciscan nuns and the Jesuits for 16 years of Catholic education. There's something very wonderful about a tour romance before you reach the age of 21. And there's something very liberating about that. And you realize you know, life is good. This,
Yeah, it was
life is
very
to celebrate.
different to
Yeah.
what I had experienced so far. And it was a completely different life to what would have happened if what I suppose I was going to do if Andrew hadn't discovered me. I would have gone to university. I would have got very locked into that very academic world.
Except, you know something, Marianne? You would have done what you are doing.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
You know, because it was inside of you, and it had to burst out no matter who would be the catalyst to discover Marianne Faithfull and bring her to audiences around the world. Marianne Faithfull was going to be herself.
I guess I really was.
Oh, I know
When
so.
I was little, I used to practice. I didn't realize that my name was this wonderful name. So I used to try and work out what my stage name would be. You know, and when my dad asked me quite seriously, you know, because he's a serious person, asked me, what do you really want to do? What do you want to study? And I asked him one of those trick questions that daughters ask their fathers. I said, well, Dad, what do you think I should do? Knowing what I wanted him to say, which was, well, darling, I think you should go and be a film star. And of course he didn't say that. He said, well, I think you should be a sociologist. And I just sort of thought, oh, God. You know, no, I knew what I wanted to do. And the first chance I got, I was off.
There you go.
Yeah.
Marianne Faithfull. What a wonderful name.
Yeah.
You don't have a brother named Les, do you?
No, but I do have, I have two half-brothers and a half-sister who I love very much. And Hazel is Hazel Faithfull, and Simon and Tim Faithfull.
Very
It's
good.
all...
Very good. Marianne Faithfull is our guest, and yours as well, at 1-800-952-2788. Back after a, well, this is the one that goes on forever. Yes, sir. Yeah. Anyway, we got a few here. Smoke if you got them.
She lives alone with no one who can see she's unhappy. She knows.
Or the Minivan Store, your Chrysler Plymouth dealer.
We're back with Marianne Faithfull, who has a brand new CD which is on the market now and contains some of the music that we're playing on tonight's simulcast. And I have the title right at the tip of my tongue, but I don't have my glasses on. And of course, if I weren't on television, I wouldn't have to put them on. It's called A Secret Life, Marianne Faithfull, out now in CD. On the toll-free here is Philip in Alton, North Carolina. Hello.
Hey, Tom. Hey, Marianne.
I'm fine, Philip. Go ahead, please.
Hey, Tom, by the way, I was in New York for the weekend, and my wife took me to that CNBC thing. We heard you call in there.
Oh, last night over at Rockefeller Plaza.
Yeah.
Yeah, were you in the audience?
Yeah, we were in my wife. I didn't really want to go, but my wife, she took me to all those things.
Yeah, and did you meet Phil Donahue and all those people?
Yeah, we did. I got to tell you, you know this guy, Andy Friendly?
Yeah.
He came out, and he was talking to us beforehand, and you got to have a word with him because he was talking about Charles Grodin.
Yeah.
I like Charles Grodin. He's okay, but he said that, you know, we were worried about replacing Tom Snyder, but now we got somebody better. And I just thought that was I thought he was a real jerk for saying that.
Andy Friendly said that Grodin's better than Snyder?
He sure did, and I think he's out of his mind. And you still got your hair.
Okay. Anyway, the phone is going to be ringing over at Fort Lee tomorrow. Say hi to Marianne Faithfull. She's right here, Philip.
Hey, Marianne, you are still one hot tamale, I got to tell you.
Well, thank you.
I'd leave the wife for you in about 3 seconds.
Oh, come on, Philip. Knock it off now.
Well, she's asleep. Don't worry about it. Anyway, I'm just kidding. Anyway, Marianne, I'd like to ask you, when you were I don't know, when did you and Mick Jagger break up, like 1970 or so?
Something like that, yes.
I always wondered, when you guys broke up, how were you treated by the other people in the rock community? I'm sure you knew, like, you know, Pete Townsend and Jimi Hendrix and all those people. Did they treat you like, you know,
like a pariah?
No,
they
like that,
didn't. No. I mean, when I left Mick, I really removed myself from the whole scene, and I very rarely saw anybody at all. But I remember just about a year later, or 2 years later, I was in a car. I had got a lift. I was going down to my mother's house in the country, and suddenly a very fast, very grand car drew up. We were on the motorway in London, going towards Oxford. And so I looked over to see who was in this big flash car, and it was Pete Townsend.
Uh-huh.
Oh, wow.
And
you know, Pete, he's my favorite. He's
a